I was sitting right there, in front of the interviewer. The job was everything I had dreamed of: a dollar salary, remote work, a chance to finally change my life. But when he asked, "Tell me about yourself," something inside me froze. My mind knew the answer. I had rehearsed it 100 times. But in that moment, all I could feel was silence. It wasn't the first time. And deep down, I started to wonder if, maybe, I would never get this right. My name is Rajiv. I come from a crowded neighborhood in India, where English feels like a wall between where you are and where you want to be. This is my story of how I went from shame and silence to confidence and clarity. If you've ever felt stuck, small, or invisible because of English, I understand, because I was there. But what I discovered is this: thinking in English isn't a gift. It's a decision, a process, a path. And you can walk it too. The heat that morning was suffocating. Even before I stepped out of the house, I could feel sweat forming on the back of my neck. But it wasn't the weather that made me nervous. It was the interview. I had ironed my best shirt, printed 3 copies of my resume, rehearsed my answers again and again. I had practiced every sentence in English, out loud, in my head, even silently on the bus. I kept telling myself, this time will be different. The company was foreign, based in the US. They offered remote work, a good salary, and most of all, a chance. A real chance to step out of this life, where I always felt stuck. When I walked into the building, everything felt too clean, too cold, too unfamiliar. The receptionist barely looked up when she handed me a visitor badge with my name in lowercase. As I sat in the waiting room, I saw the others. Confident, relaxed, some scrolling through notes on their phones, others chatting softly, in English, of course. And then they called my name. I stood up, wiped my hands on my pants, and walked in. The room was bright and silent. The interviewer, Thomas, gave me a polite smile. "Hi, Rajiv. Let's begin." He asked the first question. "Tell me about yourself." And that's when it happened. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out the way I wanted. Yes, I work back-end 5-year project. I could see his eyebrows lift slightly. My brain was racing. I knew what I wanted to say, but it was all stuck somewhere between my native language and the English I had memorized. I was translating, not thinking. The words came out like broken pieces, disconnected, embarrassing. Thomas was kind. He smiled and nodded, but I knew I had lost the moment. The interview ended with that familiar line, "Thanks for coming in. We'll be in touch." I walked out slowly. Outside, the sun was harsh. The noise of traffic, people shouting, life moving on, it all felt distant. I sat on the steps in front of the building and looked at my phone. A message from my mother. "How did it go?" I typed back, "All good." But it wasn't good. I felt broken. Not because I didn't know the answers, but because I couldn't say them. And in that moment, sitting alone in the heat, I realized something that hurt more than anything else. I wasn't failing because I lacked knowledge. I was failing because I had no voice. For the next few days, I barely spoke. I avoided calls, skipped emails, even ignored messages from friends asking how the interview had gone. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to explain the feeling of knowing the answer, but being unable to say it. It felt like I had hit a wall again. That wasn't the first time I had failed to speak, but it was the first time it truly broke something inside me. I had spent years studying English. I had paid for courses, downloaded apps, memorized vocabulary lists. And yet, when the moment came, I froze, just like always. I started to believe maybe I wasn't made for this. Maybe English was only for people who went to international schools, who watched Hollywood movies without subtitles, who had someone at home to speak with. Not for me. I told myself, just stop trying. Accept your limits. Get a local job. Forget the dream. But one night, everything changed. I was scrolling through my phone aimlessly, trying to distract myself, when a video popped up. It was a guy from Vietnam, talking in English. Not perfectly, not fast, but clearly. He spoke about how he learned English without leaving his country. No fancy teachers, no language school, no visa. Just practice. He said, I didn't wait for the perfect method. I just started talking to myself every day. I repeated phrases. I listened. I failed. And I tried again. That line hit me like a quiet explosion. I watched the whole video, twice. And then I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I picked up my phone, opened the voice recorder, stared at the screen. I felt ridiculous, but I pressed record. And I said, Hello, my name is Rajiv. I want to speak English. Every day. That was it. I stopped, replayed the recording. It sounded bad, slow, mechanical, but it was mine. That night, I didn't sleep well. Not because I was anxious, but because something had shifted. I had made a decision. Not to be perfect, but to try differently. This time, I wouldn't wait for someone to teach me. This time, I would teach myself, one sentence at a time. I didn't tell anyone what I was doing. Every morning, before the city woke up, I would put on my headphones, open a simple English video on YouTube, and repeat every sentence, out loud, not whispering, not mumbling. Real words, real sound. At first, I hated how I sounded. My voice felt awkward. My pronunciation was strange. I stumbled constantly. But I kept going. I found a method online called shadowing. It meant listening to a sentence in English and repeating it immediately, with the same rhythm, the same tone, even the same pauses. So I started doing it, while brushing my teeth, while making breakfast, while walking to work. Sometimes I felt like a crazy person talking to myself in English on the street, but I didn't care. I also started something else, self-talk. Every time I did something, I would describe it in English, like I was narrating my own life. I'm washing the dishes. It's raining today. I have a meeting at 10. It was simple, silly even. But something strange began to happen. One morning, I checked the time on my phone and thought, it's already 7:30. I froze, not because I was late, but because I had thought it in English. I didn't translate it, I didn't plan it. The phrase just appeared in my head, naturally. And for a moment, I stood there, smiling like an idiot, holding my phone, whispering, I thought it in English, I really did. It wasn't a big sentence, it wasn't deep or dramatic, but it was a turning point. That tiny shift in my brain, from translating to thinking, felt like someone had opened a door inside me, a door I had been banging on for years. That night, I opened my notebook and wrote, Today, I thought in English without trying. And below that, I added, "I will do it again tomorrow." From that day on, I didn't just study English, I started to live it. It took me weeks to gather the courage to use English with another human being. Practicing alone was safe. There was no judgment, no embarrassment. But I knew that one day I'd have to step outside that safety. And that day came on a Saturday afternoon. I was at a small grocery store near my house. Behind the counter stood a young man, someone new. His accent was different. His skin was lighter. He looked foreign. He seemed confused by the labels on the shelves. My heart started racing. This was my moment. I walked over, cleared my throat, and said, "Do you need help?" He turned and smiled. "Yes, actually, I'm looking for almond milk." I froze. I knew what almond milk was. I had practiced how to ask for things. But now that I had to respond, my brain was searching for words like it was trying to catch butterflies with bare hands. I pointed and said, "That one, white box, there." He looked, nodded, picked it up. "Thanks, man." I said, "You're welcome." That was it. It lasted less than 30 seconds. But I walked out of that store with my chest lifted a little higher. I had done it. Broken English? Yes. Basic vocabulary? Definitely. But I spoke. And more importantly, I was understood. That night, I replayed the conversation in my head a dozen times. I corrected myself. I thought of better ways to say things. But I wasn't ashamed, because now I had a real experience. Not a lesson, not a grammar rule, a moment. And those moments, they started to multiply. One day, I helped a tourist with directions. Another day, I asked a customer service agent a question in English, and they answered without switching to my local language. Each time I stumbled, but each time I got a little better. My sentences were still broken, but they were becoming braver. It was an ordinary Thursday. I was at work, reviewing lines of code on my screen, when my team leader, Mr. Sharma, rushed over. He looked stressed. "Rajiv, can you join the client call today? Rakesh is out sick." I looked up, confused. "The international call?" He nodded. "Yes, they're from Canada. It's just a quick update, nothing complicated." My stomach dropped. Until that moment, I had avoided all English calls. I stayed in the background, sent emails, let others speak. But now, there was no one else. I had two options: say no and stay where I was, or say yes and face the fear I'd been running from. I took a deep breath and said, "I'll do it." 10 minutes later, I was on a video call with 3 strangers, all speaking English, fast, naturally, confidently. I focused hard on every word. When they asked about the new system update, I cleared my throat and said, "Yes, we changed the structure to improve speed. The data is now stored in separate collections. It's safer and faster." I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. There was a pause. Then one of the clients smiled and said, "Great, that's very clear. Thank you." I felt a wave of heat rush to my face. Not embarrassment, relief, pride. I had done it. My sentences weren't perfect, but they were clear. And I was no longer invisible. After the call, Mr. Sharma came by and patted my shoulder. "Good job. You explained it better than I expected." I smiled. And that night, I didn't just write in my notebook. I celebrated. I ordered my favorite food. I played the voice recording from the call. And I wrote, "Today, I spoke English in a professional meeting. I was nervous, but I didn't run. I showed up, and they saw me." That moment changed something forever. For the first time, English didn't feel like a threat. It felt like a tool, a door, a beginning. Months passed. What once felt impossible had become part of my daily life. I started leading client calls regularly. I wrote emails in English without triple-checking every sentence. I even corrected a colleague's grammar once, gently, of course. But the biggest change wasn't in my words. It was in how I saw myself. For the first time, I didn't feel like an outsider at work. I didn't feel like a liability. I felt useful, valuable, seen. People started coming to me with questions. "Rajiv, how do I say this in an email? Can you help me explain this on the call?" At first, I was surprised. Me? Helping others with English? But then I remembered where I started. All those lonely mornings, all those whispered phrases, all those failed attempts. I knew exactly how they felt. So I started sharing. I recorded a short video, nothing fancy, just me sitting at my desk, speaking from the heart. "Hi, my name is Rajiv. I'm not a native speaker. I learned English by talking to myself every day. I started with one sentence. I was scared, but I didn't stop. If I can do it, you can too." I uploaded it anonymously to a language forum. The response shocked me. Messages came in from Brazil, Egypt, Indonesia. Strangers were thanking me, telling me they felt understood, telling me they were ready to start. I wasn't famous, I wasn't fluent, but I was real. And in a world full of perfect grammar and polished accents, sometimes that's what people need most. Now, every week I share a new phrase, a story, a mistake I made, and what I learned. Because I know someone out there is sitting in silence, like I was, and maybe, just maybe, my voice can help them find theirs. Tonight, I sat down at my desk. The same desk where I once whispered my first sentence in English. The same desk where I recorded myself shaking with fear. The same desk where I almost gave up. And I wrote a letter. Not to a friend, not to a student, to myself. To the version of me that once believed he would never belong. Dear me, I know you're tired. You just walked out of another interview, ashamed and angry. Not because you didn't know the answer, but because you couldn't say it. You're sitting there wondering if you're broken. Wondering if maybe English is just not for people like you. But listen to me. You're not broken. You're just scared. And that fear is real, but it's not final. Soon, you're going to do something small. You're going to record a sentence, just one. It will sound strange, awkward, embarrassing, but it will be the beginning. You'll repeat phrases while walking down the street. You'll describe your breakfast out loud. You'll talk to your reflection, your phone, your notebook. You'll feel foolish and brave at the same time. One day, you'll think in English without realizing it. One day, you'll speak in a meeting, and someone will say, "That was clear." One day, people will thank you for giving them hope. You won't become perfect, but you'll become powerful, because you won't hide anymore. So, hold on. Don't quit. Don't wait for permission. Don't measure yourself by someone else's fluency. You only need one sentence to begin. Say it. Say it again. And keep going. With love, your future self. I closed the notebook, took a breath, and whispered one more time. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to begin. Before you go, if this story felt like your story, even in a small way, don't let the feeling fade. Take one small action today. Open your voice recorder. Say one sentence in English. Comment below and share what you said. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be yours. And if you know someone who's struggling in silence, share this story with them. Because the only thing more powerful than finding your voice is helping someone else find theirs. Start today. Your future is listening.